Hello, guys. Let's just wait a couple minutes and then we will start right away, okay? Hello, everyone. We're waiting for a couple minutes for to give people time to join us, and then we will start at around 5:33. Okay, let's begin then. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're gonna be doing some data analysis with Twitter data, basically, that we're gonna scrape using our own tool called Tractor. And we're gonna do an analysis of the BMAs, which were the other day on the 15th of May, I believe. And I think we can find some interesting insights there. So if you want, let's begin. Let me share my screen. Okay, there you go. Okay, can you see it correctly? Okay, perfect. So let's see. So we're now using the tool Tractor, and let's see how we could do a quick search, scrape some data very quickly. Let's say Billboard Music Awards is the topic that we're interested in scraping, okay? But we don't just want to get this query for our data. We want to combine it with, for example, let's say that people also call it the BMAs when they are talking about it on Twitter, right? So let's just type BMA as well. We could also filter by who is tweeting about this with an ad from that user, or we could filter from like tweets that are directed to the Billboard Music Awards Twitter ad itself. We could also include retweets, which wouldn't usually advise because they can add a lot of noise, make tweets seem more important when they're not really. So we tend to, by default, set it in no, but you could always do that in case you want to do some more advanced search. You also have the option of searching through Google Search, Google News, Google CEO, etc. Anything that is open, you can search with this tool. So we just click search, and I'm not gonna let it run for too long, basically for the sake of efficiency, but you could get all the data basically that Twitter still has openly available in this topic. You can download with Tractor. So let's just say we just want this 88 or 90,000 tweets, right? We stop it there. We get the first 10,000 tweets beginning today and going backwards. So let's say for the past year, this would be the last 10,000 tweets that have been written on this topic. We save it as a CSV. And let's give it a prettier name. I'm just going to type short because I have a more complete data set that we're going to explore later. But just so you can see how we upload this data and what we can do, let's give it that name. And now we're going to go to Graphext. So let me close this and share. Share my screen here. Okay, perfect. So let's see what we can do with this data, okay? We are going to find ourselves in the data sets part of graphics, and we want to upload this data set, right? So we just browse our files. We can also drag and drop. It's a little bit complicated for me right now with the live stream, but you can always do that. It's quite satisfying in my opinion. So we have this data set that we want to work with here. And it's going to take a few seconds to load. But the interesting part is we have now with Graphext Fluid changed a little bit the dynamic of how we upload the data, what the process, what the flow is, let's say. And now once you have loaded the data set, it is automatically creating a new project for you as well, which we called the first project. And we think this is important because not everyone wants a full-blown fancy analysis, a cluster, a graph. It's not always necessary. But it's nice to see what are the key features, what is, even in the case of wanting to clean the data, what's the distribution of your variables, what data is there that could be more useful, you know? So in that sense, I think the first project that you get is really useful, because you can also create through it a second project later and meanwhile explore this one without any problems. I'm sorry, it's taken a little bit longer because I don't have that great of an internet connection today. But also, of course, Sergio is here with me in the room, so he will be cueing me if you have any question in case I don't notice. Feel free to ask in the chat, no problem whatsoever. Any questions you have, we're here for you. So let's see. As we see, we have the first exploration project opened right away, right? So we go here and we see, we're going to see it's a really simple project with some key features, some new features as well, like plot, where you can work a little bit with the data, change the type of casting the data, we call it. So change the type of data that you have. And you can do that. See, we have compare, correlations, plot. You can do that through the wizard, for example. Let's go here. I'm not going to use too much this project today because we can kind of do these features with a fancier project, which in this case I'm interested in doing. But you could always limit yourself to this one, no problem. So once we go to the wizard, we see that we can change the type of data. So for example, let's see the ID, right? It's categorized it as a category, but we can always change it to a number in case we were interested in that. I'm going to show you real quick. I'm not going to change it actually, but I'm going to show you what that would look like. So here we see the changed type, but the coolest thing I think for our projects now is that you can create this. You can create a new project on this first project that you have created. You can enrich it however you want, as we could before. You can enrich it with text sentiment, with detect emotion in the text. And the coolest thing is you don't have to save it that way. Sorry, you don't have to save it the way it is into a new project, but you can save it into the same project that you're in right now. So let's do that. And let's go to overwrite. What that's going to do, it's going to write in the current project that we're working in. Over that, it's going to write the information of our new project, so we don't find ourselves with a new project being created outside of this one. In case you wanted to keep the information from this project for whatever reason, you could always check the backup option right here, but we actually trust our system, so and we're not really interested in doing that for this case, so let's just execute, okay? And it's gonna lead us to this new new vision of the creation of the project. I'm not going to wait until it runs completely because I have already created a more complete project with more data, with almost 20,000 data points here. And we see that we have a very well-ordered table right away. So we have the date, we have the text, we have the tweets, and they're pinned to the left, we call it. In case you wanted to remove any of this data for whatever reason, you could unpin it here. There we go. And you can always sort. Let's see. Let me send it last because I'm not really interested in this case in seeing the link, right? And you can sort by, for example, the number of retweets. See, let's say we want to see if a verified user has higher retweets than a non-verified user, so you can do that right away here. Let's see. So in this case, for the VMAs, it's true that the highest retweets are verified, but compared to other data sets that I've seen before, there's not that many verified accounts that are getting really high retweets, and that's got an interesting explanation that we're going to see through the exploration of this data set, right? But let's now go to the variable manager, which is a new feature that we just got as well, and it's really powerful. You can, as always, you can change the titles of the variables here. I'm not going to do that right now, but you could always do that. You can select various variables. Let's say this one, and we wanted to hide it, for example, you can hide it, the two of them at the same time. Here, I'm gonna show them again and unselect them. And let's see if there's anything that we can do that helps us. For example, this one, I'm not really interested in seeing. And yeah, so let's send that one, the last one. And unselect. What's really cool as well is that now you can tag the variables inside variable groups, right? So this is going to ease your exploration of the data later on. Let's say that you wanted to create a new group called, this is replies. So this category specifically doesn't make a whole lot of sense for this data, but we have created already some categories for you. So this is just as an example. Okay. Sorry, the computer is hyperventilating. It's quite hot here in Spain today, and that combined with bad internet is not is not ideal. Let me reload. There you go. Okay. This is the problems of being live. Okay. Okay. So, okay. Okay, so now we also have the already created group variables here. And those ones are going to be really useful for the exploration. We also can pin some variables to the left. So that's going to pin them in this side of the graph, of the visualization. But I'm not interested in doing that right now. So I'm just going to show you some of the details of the data we have today. So let's compare some of the clusters that we created, shall we? Because I think we can find some interesting data here. Let's say that I want BTS. That I want. Oh, Anita is there. Let's say Dojo Cat. And let's put some other top artists that people have been talking about. And we can very quickly, we've been able to do this for a long time, but as always, we can very quickly see how the variables relate between each other, how they have evolved. So for example, let me change the color of this one, place it with pink because Doja Cat I associate with pink right away, and see what how the information relates to each other, right? So for example, we see in this user creation date, there's a high peak for BTS, the BTS cluster of users that have been created since 2020. Amazingly, there's a high peak here as well, but the other points are much lower than any other artist, which I find interesting, and it may be telling us that maybe the users tweeting about BTS are younger people in general, which would make sense with the insight that K-pop fans are usually younger, right? So let's also now go to plot, which is a new section we have that is really powerful. And we can see, let's say, for example, I'm interested in seeing the evolution in general of the tweets, right? And I want to focus on this period here to get better insights. I'm going to change this to 12 hours to see how they fluctuate. Oh, big gap there. Let's see. Like this. And really quickly, you can see the fluctuation in different topics. You can add more topics. This is based on the clusters, but you could change that as well. But we can see very quickly the fluctuation of in the different topics, how much people talk about this. You could also see how clusters and retweets interact. And for that, I think the bar chart could be an amazing option. Right here, you cannot see it very well, but if we flip the chart, it's interesting to see this first cluster, top butter, is a BTS song, which also interestingly, most of the most retweeted clusters we're going to see are related to BTS. And how that relates to the clusters is even though the most tweeted thing, the most tweeted about thing is the awards themselves. So, for example, watching the Billboard music tonight. The fact that people is tweeting about that doesn't get that much engagement, but the people tweeting about butter does get a lot of engagement. We could also see, for example, how let's see the category of sentiment, which we decided to calculate before, right? So category of sentiment, proper nouns, for example. So this is going to show us how, let's say, we have categorized each tweet in between negative, neutral, and positive. So this is going to show you how the names or the proper nouns in that tweet relate to the sentiment of the tweet. And if we place it with relative count to the sentiment, we can see, interestingly, then Wallen and Morgan do get some of the highest negative tweets right after the event themselves. Why is that? Morgan Wallen is actually an artist who won a prize in this BMAs, but he was recorded screaming some racist stuff, so people were not very pleased about him winning, and that's why you can see that insight right there. You can also see that BTS does get some negative tweets, and that is because they won, I think, 3 awards in that gala, but they did not attend the gala. And then you can also, of course, see the positive tweets. Neutral ones, in this case, we're not that interested in, but I think to see what's your brand image right now, this is a really powerful tool as well. Let's see. Now I think we can explore the graph a little bit. Let's load this. And we can see we get this beautiful clusters, and we see that some of the biggest clusters are the event themselves. This super dense cluster here is talking about the winners of the event, and then the next one is talking about Anita. She's a Latin singer, and Getty Images and Becky. I'm assuming this is going to be Becky G. She's another Latin singer that lives in the States. But I'm a little bit confused as to why this is mixing Anita, Alexa, and Becky G. Alexa is also another female singer. So I'm going to create a new segmentation to go a little bit more in depth into this cluster. And I'm going to call this woman exploration, let's say. Let's see what we get in here. So we can see a bunch of different groups have been created inside our cluster, right? And let's explore these groups a little bit. We see Becky G again, Beyonce probably, Anita. So that's why it has categorized it into Anita first, because she is in a lot of clusters inside. And why could this be? So this obviously was a cluster talking about women in the event in general, but why could it be giving more importance to Anita? So let's go to author attributes, shall we? And see, maybe it's in tweets. So this is the power of grouping the variables. I can very quickly do some exploration, and it's just so easy. But this is interesting because inside this cluster, we get a way oversampled number of tweets in Portuguese. And probably the reason why Anita is very much mentioned in this cluster is because she's a Brazilian singer. So this makes a lot of sense that most people writing in Portuguese would be writing about their artists of their country or speaking their language, right? So let me delete this. It's not really that important for our exploration. I do want to delete it. And let's remain in tweet text attributes in this grouped variable that we have automatically created with the project, right? I clear the filter and I go back to the general graph. So let's remain here in tweet text attributes, and let's see, now that we were talking about the language, let's color by language and see how it relates to our different clusters, right? So this is interesting because we can clearly see the Anita cluster here, which is in green, and it's in Portuguese. But we can also see a cluster of Spanish tweets, and they're mostly talking about this. It's a little bit more obscure because it's talking about the names of songs and stuff like that. But we can see that these topics are actually related to BTS. And that's because BTS has a massive fan community in Spanish-speaking countries, right? We can also, let me color by clusters again. Let me also go to author attributes, and let's see user creation date. We saw a little bit of this before, but maybe if we filter by the creation of the user, we can now see, let me sort by selection. We can now see that the clusters that actually are oversampled with this selection are the ones related to BTS. And then this new users are not talking so much about the award, the list, winners, or, Anita. But they are talking about BTS. So let's see what older users are talking about. So definitely not BTS. They're talking about the winners. They're talking about Mary. They're talking about Didi because he was presenting the event, and fashion and the event Drake. So this probably is showing us that there's a clear distinction in age and the users tweeting about BTS and the users tweeting about like more what I guess Generation Z is now calling old artists or more like classic pop artists. And I think that's an interesting insight that is not um, so easy to see, but we kind of have that idea right away that that could be the case. If we remain in other attributes and let's go to source. Oh, sorry. Well, we could also search like this. Let's color by source. And this is telling us where this people is tweeting from. So most of the people tweeting about BTS is tweeting from an Android phone, and most of the people tweeting about the event, they're tweeting from an iPhone. And we can also see here journalists in the WordPress, journalists or the main managers of the event tweeting from WordPress, which I think could be super useful for certain use cases, right? Let me color again by the cluster. And I'm getting this Dojo Cat cluster here, and I was curious, why were people tweeting so much about Doja Cat? Could this be related maybe to the dress that she was wearing during the event? Does fashion actually have an effect over the retweets that you get? So I created a new project with the images of this data set specifically. And I created a new clustering. Oh, yes, this one. New cluster based precisely on those images. And this is a new possibility that you have with Graphext Fluid now as well. It's really powerful. We used Clip to be able to segment the images themselves, and it's not based on the text associated to the image, but the image itself. So you can find really interesting insights in some projects, including this one. I have found that it's even clustering different types of memes, like more old school types of memes, and more recent 2018 forward types of memes, which, believe it or not, do have a different aesthetic. Usually you will not see the names of the clusters like this, but I have tagged them, so this makes a little bit more sense for the session. And we can see there's a big cluster here of women in the red carpet. We can explore it further if we zoom in, and let's see what it's showing us. So yeah, this is what outfits people were wearing during the event. So let's see this one. It's gonna show me little snapshots of the images. There we go. And we can even go to, it's gonna cluster all men in this side of the cluster, and women are clustered in this side here for different topics. So it does distinguish the red carpet, the performers and nominees, and the award-winning celebrities. So those types of images. And we can see this memes, we can see there's a lot of BTS clusters, which tells me in the way that they're organized that there's a cluster that uh, talking about them not attending the event. There's a cluster talking about group pictures of BTS because they are a group. In case you haven't seen them, this is them. It does tell me that Twitter, at least, is really organized when tweeting about BTS. And even though they're talking about them, they're very distinctively talking about different topics and pushing that narrative forward to create engagement, which is also interesting. We could go back to plot even here from the images, right? And let's see what clusters of images are getting more retweets. Some of this, oh, sorry, clicked heat map. You can do that, but in this case, it's not super useful. And let's flip the chart. And we see not all of them are named because we did have a lot of clusters and I only named the most relevant ones. But the ones that are getting the most retweets are, again, the BTS clusters. And these are images of BTS in a limousine. These are images of an album called Permission to Dance, banners. This one, I believe, is them in white clothes. So lots of interactions with BTS in general. So yeah, let's see. Let's go back to this cluster here. If you wanted to save an insight, let's say, or download this graph, you could also do that very easily. You go to, let's download the graph first. Export graph, sorry. And you can download it in different sizes. You can download it with different themes and even transparent, so you can feed it in your presentation, no problem. And this does also apply for the compare and correlations and plot graphs that you see. Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. So it has downloaded the graph now. And if we go to, to plot, and we wanted to, let's say, save the heat map that we got, talking about how Morgan Wallen hasn't been getting the most positive feedback in this event, we can go to create an insight and and we can save an insight like that. That easy. We go to insights, we have them here. You can edit them later, add text, change the title, whatever you want. You can add the text here. Whatever it is that you want to edit this as, you can personalize it with us as well. So yeah, that would be it. If you guys have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining. We'll be staying here for a couple minutes more. Okay, so if there are no further questions, I appreciate your time so much. In case you have any questions at any point, of course, feel free to contact our team, and we're always here to respond. And thanks for coming today. Okay. Thank you, Elisa. Bye.